Hi, my name is Dean Portinga, and we had our own weekly TV show some 20 years ago, and they're still right on in terms of what Spiritual Insights is all about. So I would like to share with one of the episodes with you today.
Welcome to Life Principles, a series on spirituality by Dr. Dean Portinga, exploring the life principles of sacred writings and how they relate to our lives today. Dr. Portinga holds doctorates in theology and clinical psychology and has spent a lifetime in discovering and sharing the principles found common in most sacred writings and religious philosophies in order to enable us to better understand ourselves.
Of life principles, and in this particular series we're talking about leadership development, executive development as spiritual development. And a few months ago, we had the privilege of visiting with Dr. Peter Vail, who was the Dean of the School of Business at George Washington University and is now on the faculty. And he's written a paper called Executive Development as Spiritual Development. And it's such an excellent paper that we've taken the opportunity of summarizing it and are using that as the basis for the discussion as it relates to life principles, as it relates to sacred writings throughout the ages.
Okay, I'm Bobby Stevens, and I am the founder and president of Executive Futures. And the Futures Group actually is what we call ourselves now. It used to be Executive Futures. We provide programs which help people discover themselves and discover possibilities. A number of years ago, when I was in business school, I started thinking about what makes a business successful. And what I realized was that a business is simply the reflection of the people, of the abilities of the people that make up the business. So I started thinking then about why some people are so much more successful than other people. And what came to me was that I should read some biographies and autobiographies of people that had made significant contributions to the world. And I did that, and what I found that most of the people had in common was their intuitive ability. They seemed to have some way of knowing what they wanted to do and how to go about doing it, which had absolutely nothing to do with collecting information, which, as Dr. Vail tells us, that we find the statesman's myth is the belief that it's all outside ourselves. It's all in collecting information. That's all we have access to, and that's all we need. But what I discovered was that these people simply had some way of knowing. So I decided to go back to school and study psychology because I wanted to find out what this was all about and how to develop that intuitive ability. And I did that. And of course what I found, as did Dr. Vail, is that our school systems are about collecting information. So they had nothing that helped develop intuitive abilities. Later I did discover the works of Dr. Maslow, Abraham Maslow, who studied the healthiest people in our society and coined the term self-actualized to talk about these people. He discovered that there were some people in our society that functioned quite differently than the rest of us. And these people were highly intuitive. They seemed to have some way of knowing who they were, what their purpose was, and how to go about accomplishing it. And a number of years later, I had my own discovery of my own ability to intuitively know. And this was an experience that totally changed my life. It was like moving into a whole new world for me. And that is the basis of the Futures course. And of course what we do is we cover all of the areas here. And what we find is, what I discovered was a process for releasing stress, which allows us to move to a totally different level of consciousness, a way of being in touch with what we call the superconscious. It's the level of all intelligence. And from that level, when we can release enough stress for the nervous system to function properly, it's our normal state. When we can allow the nervous system to function properly, we simply move to that level of knowingness. And we simply know from a deep level within ourselves. And on that level, we find that when we can release enough stress, we find that honesty is simply not an issue anymore. The idea of lack of honesty is absurd. And fear disappears because we realize, as Roosevelt said, there's nothing to fear but fear itself. Change, we realize, is essential and can be lots of fun rather than being overwhelmed by it. Mm-hmm. And of course, on that level, we also can realize our purpose, understand our purpose, and function from that level of purpose. So I believe, as Dr. Vail does, that it's a wonderful time to be alive, and we're just very grateful for being part of this great paradigm shift that's taking place in the world today. Mm-hmm.
Well, and I have to say, if I may, that having taken the Executive Futures course, that it really made a big difference. And I liked the way you expressed exactly how to do it. It wasn't just a lot of words, but it was an actually formula that you could put to use every day.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.